When it comes to capitalism, Disney has taught us that brand recognition is everything. People who call you racial slurs and teabag you while they tell you about the things that they did with your mother last night are called gamers. People who enjoyed board games are also called gamers. Corporations have caught on to this overlap and this extreme failure on the English language and decided to capitalize on this. With it, you see the abundance of cross-marketing that you see today in the form of video game board games. Now, I'm not talking about the 1 million different versions of video game-based monopolies out there. I'm talking specifically about video games that have been adapted into board games. I have a lot in store for you, so let's get right to it. To differentiate between board games and video games, I will be calling video games video james. If people are allowed to say GIF and GIF, I should be allowed to say board and video james. Hey, yeah, does this one count? Okay, yeah, I mean, you pretty much get what you'd expect. Surprising to no one, this is one of the highest rated video game adaptations of all time. Doom the board game has a very interesting history. This is a semi-co-op game based on the 2016 Doom game where a team of Marines kill demons. This has a surprisingly steep learning curve, as well as absolutely batshit insane miniatures. For some reason, this game is incredibly slow-paced. One versus everyone else in the game. One player controls the demons, and the other players take 30 minutes to strategize. This kind of reminds me of Betrayal at House on the Hill. Upon release, there were many negative reviews. However, there was an expansion that sped up Marine moves and made the game less disjointed to the game than it was before. Before, it was just a game that had the Doom branding on it to boost sales, but as time has gone on, it's become a little bit more true to the series. I don't know how you could fuck up the rip and tear aspect of Doom and just make it slow and grindy, but they managed to do that. For the next section of this video, I will be talking about a company called Steamforged. A company that basically exclusively makes board game adaptations of bibliogames. This company started out by making Guild Ball in 2015. It released with an 8 out of 10 rating. You use these crazy impressive minis to play fantasy-themed soccer games. Look, there's a board game out there for everybody. I don't know what else to tell you. So, this company got its name for making uncharacteristically good miniatures. So, what games do they make? Well, they made Resident Evil 2 and 3, Ni no Kuni 2, Dark Souls, Devil May Cry 5, and the newly released Horizon Zero Dawn game. These were all Kickstarters, as most board games that are funded these days tend to be. And up until about a month or two ago, Resident Evil 2 was the only board game they had actually delivered on. Before you get your hopes up, just know that the rest of these games don't translate all that well from their Titlio tames. There are a lot of complaints that the games just don't line up mechanically, or they aren't complex enough. Dark Souls is commonly referred to as a beautiful mess, with the main comparison being that both games are very difficult and nothing else. Yet another masterpiece made by Eric Lang and published by Fantasy Flight in 2015. This timed co-op game has an excellent companion app that takes care of the nitty-gritty while you develop technology and defend the world from invading aliens. There. Good review in 50 words or less. Where's my money?
This was a triumph.
Portal, the uncooperative cake acquisition game released in 2015, was, yes, released 8 years after the original game. This game clings on to a joke that is so overdone I'm going to start oozing cake batter from my ears if I hear it again. This was designed by someone named Jeep and published by a company I have never heard of. This area control game's objective is to collect slices of cake. This is an abstract strategy game with a theme so obviously slapped onto it just for recognition. I really dislike everything going on here. How do you take a hit puzzle platforming game that broke so many records and just make it an uncooperative cake acquisition game? What? Oh, so all those were kind of messy, but I can't help but feel like I'm missing something. Oh no. So if we're going to talk about Street Fighter, we might as well talk about the best Street Fighter board game that was released. Street Fighter's the miniature game is famous for being funded in just one day and delivered 2 years later. It also had a whopping 3 expansions before the game finally got delivered. Next we have Capcom's Street Fighter deck building game. Everyone gets a basic 10-card deck and you use your power to get more money, to get more cards, to get more power. When you have enough power, you get to beat the stage boss. For each stage boss that you beat, you get victory points. Whoever has the most at the end wins. This is the only Street Fighter game I could find or imagine where you don't play as the characters from Street Fighter. Instead, the cards you pick up are moves the Street Fighter characters have. I feel like this is unique until I realized that it had all the signs of a board game that had a theme slapped onto it. Otherwise, this feels entirely like a Clank beta, which is a pretty good thing. Okay, time for the fun one. We're going to talk about Street Fighter II by Milton Bradley. But first, you need to know about the company. Milton Bradley is a board game company that made their debut with 13 Dead End Drive in 1933. However, they've been operating and passed down in the family since 1860. At their peak, they were actively printing 410 different board games. When World War II hit, the company invented the Shea joint for plane landing gear. This earned the company a whopping $2 million back in the 1940s. But in the 1940s, that was worth over $37 million. They used this money to fuel their gamer empire. Sorry, I've just always wanted to say that. They made games like Chutes and Ladders, Aggravation, Trouble, Battleship, Candyland, Connect 4, Guess Who, Perfection, Jenga, Life, Kerplunk, and probably every single board game that you ever played as a kid. As early as the 1940s, they had gotten licensing permission to make games like The Adventure of Spider-Man, and so their quest to represent every IP in board game form was afoot. They converted almost every television game show into a board game. They went ahead to make Jesus. They went on to make jigsaw puzzles, video games, video game consoles, video game board games, and handheld electronic games. They made everything for Disney, Marvel, G.I. Joe, Goosebumps, Mario, Zelda, and you guessed it, Street Fighter. So let's look at the Street Fighter II game released in 1994. Yes! Yes! You play as your favorite Street Fighter II character. The only thing from here that's similar to Street Fighter is that it takes place on the streets. The die you roll to move indicates the number of turns in the streets you are allowed to take. Your goal is to come into contact with other players and beat the shit out of them while in the battle arena. The way you do this is by rolling more dice. Whoever rolls the higher power number wins. What do you win? Well, the next time you fight, you're able to roll more dice. And yes, this stacks. Eventually, your power meter will be super high from beating the shit out of your friends in broad daylight. Shirt off and everything. Then whoever has the highest power has to go fight M. Bison. And the fight works exactly the same way. If you roll higher than M. Bison, everybody wins. And if you lose the fight, everyone loses the game. So basically what you do is whoever wins the first battle, everyone just surrounds them. Then you all take turns fluffing their cock until they're ready to take on Bison. Yes, that's the game. You are either fighting Bison or you are the cock fluffer. Now, you're probably wondering why you don't hear about this company all the time. Well, after they put out multiple games like this, most of them sharing the exact same components, they, surprisingly, went bankrupt. Well, they didn't actually go bankrupt. They convinced somebody to buy the company. Who, though? Oh. It's right behind me, isn't it? Well, I hope you enjoyed this video about board game and video game history. I know it's a little different than some of my other videos, but this is something I find really fascinating and I wanted to share it with you all. The comment question for this video is, what video game should get a good board game adaptation next? What would you like to see most, or what do you think would translate the best into a board game? I am very eager to hear what you have to say and interact with you beans all down in the comments, so I will keep this short. Thank you to all my contributors. You make these higher quality videos possible. I would really appreciate it if you subscribed. I have a subscriber goal that I want to hit, and I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't want to be let down when I don't hit it. If you're already subscribed, I'm sorry. Also, you should share this video with a gamer friend. It doesn't even have to be this video. Like I said, I have a lot of personal goals for the channel, and I want to hit them, and it's not possible without people like you. Again, I haven't really set a sub or a viewer goal. I would just really appreciate it if you could help me out with this. Thanks, and I'll see you guys in the comments down below.